We are continuing on Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim, the halachot of Kriyat Torah, Siman Kuf Mem Gimel, and we did basically the preface to Seif Dalet of the Machloket Rishonim. What exactly is the criterion necessary for going back when mistakes are found in Sefer Torah? The majority of the Rishonim, as we learned, they're of the opinion that if you have even one letter missing in the Torah, in the Sefer Torah, the entire thing is pasul. And then contrasted with the shita of some of the Rishonim who are of the opinion that even missing a few psukim does not render the Sefer Torah pasul. And the way Maran of Shulchan Aruch versus Ramah deal with that, we also saw that it's really a mix of both of the shitot. So therefore, Maran of Shulchan Aruch holds if you find the mistake in the middle of Kriyat Torah, what has been, we let it be bygones. And we start from here saying the brachot, even though that according to those majority of Rishonim, that they say the Sefer Torah is rendered pasul and invalid with even one mistake, you really should have gone back and start from the beginning of the parasha with all the aliyot, and all the brachot would be bracha l'batalam. But again, the middle ground that we take is you let the bygones be bygones and you start from anew, and you don't even have to be mashlim the 7 aliyot. You could, if you've done 3 aliyot so far, you could just do 4 more on Shabbat, and that would be your 7 aliyot. L'chatchila, we try to maybe break down the remnants of the psukim to 7 aliyot if possible, but nevertheless, it's not ma'akev. That's the shita of Maran, and again, we read the Ramah as well, which we're going to review it again over here. B'shat kriya, says the Mishnah Berura in Ot Yudalit, that when you find the mistake amidst your reading of the Torah, perush lo karu adayin rak miktzat haolin, you did not finish the Kriyat Torah. They are still in the middle, because if you finish the Sefer Torah and then you found in the last pasuk that something was a mistake, in that case, says the Mishnah Berura, or you saw that the next pasuk of the next week is going to be a problem, so the Sefer Torah was psula, so says the Mishnah Berura, in that case, you're not going to necessarily bring another Sefer Torah. The machshirin, because b'di'evet, what has been already, we rely on the poskim who hold that a reading of Torah in a Sefer Torah that is pasul and missing a word, missing a letter, it's messed up a little bit, still would be considered a viable Kriyat Torah, and we let the bygones be bygones even if you read the entire parasha. Says the Mishnah Berura, this is only a case that you found the mistake in Sefer Torah when one aliyah was finished before the next aliyah. In between the two people, somebody came up and said, hey, this is a mistake. That's the case of Maran Shulchan Aruch, and therefore, therefore, everyone that has gotten an aliyah, if you were by shlishi, you just finished shlishi, 3 aliyot are counted towards the 7. Even the last one that was the psul is counted towards the 7, and that is considered an absolute b'di'evet. Whereas, if you have a different scenario that you don't, you did not read for the 3rd aliyah, the whole aliyah, or the 3 psukim even, it may not be necessarily considered as one of the 7, as we will see. So says the Mishnah Berura over here, you go with the second Sefer Torah, you bring out the second Sefer Torah, and you start from where? Not from the beginning of the aliyah of shlishi, for instance. If the ta'ut was found in shlishi, you don't go back to the beginning of the aliyah. You start from that pasuk that the mistake was found in. The beginning, if it was in the middle of pasuk Yudalet, you go to the beginning of pasuk Yudalet in the second Sefer, smack in the middle of aliyah shlishi or whatever aliyah you're in, and that's where you started from. Because we're talking about a case that you stopped in the middle of the the aliyah, and you start from the middle of that aliyah where you stopped. והדין אפילו לא נודע להם הטעות עד אחר שקראו אחר הטעות 3 או 4 פסוקים, גם כן אין מתחילים להם מהמקום שפסקו. Even if you did not notice the mistake until you read few psukim afterwards, so you read past the pasuk, few psukim, where do you go back to? Well, there will be room to argue that you should go back to the beginning of the pasuk that the mistake is there. No, it's the same thing. So Sefer Torah, that's pasul according to some Rishonim. You read until whatever pasuk you read up to, even if that place is past the mistake, still you go back to where you stopped, not to the beginning of the pasuk that the mistake has been made in it, in the writing of the Sefer Torah. The b'diavad al talahem mashkaru b'sefer pasul. B'diavad, what you read in the pasuk Sefer Torah will be sufficient. But if the person saying the bracha, the ole, noticed the mistake, he caught the mistake, and until he told the chazan, he deliberated in his mind, checking in his memory, trying to muster up the courage to disagree with the world-class Baal Koreh that made the mistake and didn't catch the mistake of Sefer Torah. Chazan is going with the speed of light, and he read another few psukim, and then the guy stopped him and said, "Look, let's check this," and check, and sure enough, it's pasul. But the one that got the aliyah already caught up to the mistake when it was read by mistake. So in that case, the Ma'amar Mordechai writes that you have to go back to the place of the ta'ut, because the ta'ut was known already at that point to the person that got the aliyah. So you're not allowed to. That's already not b'di'evet. That's l'chatchila. If you know about the ta'ut and you read, you have to go back to the beginning. So where was the ta'ut, the mistake, known? By that place that the guy that said the bracha noticed the mistake. That's when everything became now the chatchila, and therefore you have to go back to that place, not to the place that the Baal Koreh actually stopped or was stopped. Now the Shcharuch said, "Umashlimin makorim alotam shkaru b'mut'em," that you finish up the number of aliyot on those that they said it already. That means if you got 3 aliyot so far, you just need 4 more now, right? Not the whole 7 from new. So says the Mishnah Berura on this, all those who have read already also are counted as the count of 7. And same would be Monday, Thursday would be the count of 3 aliyot. As we mentioned before, if it is possible to divide what's left of the parasha to 7 different olim, that of course, vadai, it's best to do that. Now, Maran said, if you found a mistake in the middle of the read of this bracha that he made, for instance, let's say shlishi, gomer kriyato b'sefer kasher umevarech la'achareh. You stop, you finish your aliyah, meaning mid aliyah you stop, you finish it in the sefer kasher, and then you say bracha acharona only. So you said your bracha rishona avasher b'harbanu on a sefer pasul, because now in retroactively you see that it was pasul. So you don't have to say a new bracha in the beginning, asher b'harbanu. You just start reading from sefer kasher, and then you say asher natan lanu et torato torat emet bracha acharona, and that would be sufficient. So says the Mishnah Berura, even if you read already a bunch of psukim, so long as you have not said the last bracha, cannot get off the hook for having read in the Pasula Sefer Torah to say, well, I read already bygones, let's say bracha acharona. No. Saying the bracha acharona is considered lechatchila. You cannot say bracha acharona on a Pasula Sefer Torah. So therefore, you finish, and if you had finished less than 3 psukim left to the end, you go back a pasuk or 2 until you have enough read in the new Sefer Torah, and you say bracha acharona on that as well. It says the Mishnah Berura, ve'eno chozer levarech lefaneha. This, that you don't go back to say a bracha av asher b'harbanu in the beginning of the read from the Kasher Sefer Torah, is the same halacha shnimtzat ta'ut ben bracha lekriya. If you found the you said the bracha asher b'harbanu mikol ha'amim, and then oops, before you read, you see there's a ta'ut in the Sefer Torah. You haven't read a word. You just said bracha asher. So your bracha was not chal, did not take hold in any psukim, because you realize that the Sefer Torah is pasul. So one could argue, well, your bracha did not take hold. So when you bring the second Sefer Torah out, you should say bracha again, asher b'harbanu. Says the Mishnah Berura. Kolin Sefer Torah zu, you wrap up the old Sefer Torah, the pasul Sefer Torah, you bring the new one up, you open it, and the person that got the aliyah, in tzarich levarech shenit, he does not need to say another new bracha, if he did not talk in between, of course, right? He cannot be mafsik. You tell him, you say, don't comment on the Sefer Torah, don't say anything, don't get frustrated, don't yell, just calm, quiet, wait until we bring out the second Sefer Torah, we roll it, we get it ready, and then if he has not stopped in the middle with speech, he could just stay to read from the second Sefer Torah. And if you have a place that their minhag has been that the person says a new bracha on the second Sefer Torah, you don't have to yell at them, you don't have to stop them, because they have what to rely on, because as we mentioned before, those poskim who say the whole thing is pasul, even b'di'eved, it's not necessarily good, right? And this is what the Kaf HaChaim says. Kaf HaChaim says you should not say bracha, you should not go back and say bracha av asher b'harbanu, and at the same time you don't oppose and reject a person that would say it. Now, they bring in the name of Rav Mazuz that best is to be yotzei yedei kulam. If you want to get yourself out of this whole machloket, best is you should read 3 psukim in the Sefer Torah that's pasul, even though that you found the mistake already before you started reading. Just read 3 psukim. This way, according to those who say that a Sefer Torah was missing a word or a letter is still kasher, your bracha took hold, right? Then, says Rab Mazuz, then go back, bring a Sefer Torah, and read from the beginning, from 3 psukim before, in the Sefer Torah kasher. This way, kind of like you cover more of your bases. It will be something to satisfy both shitas here in this case. And says the Mishnah Berura, ve'im kevar, we said in the Ramah that if they already read 3 psukim with him, and you could stop, you stop there, and he says a bracha. That's what the Ramah said, right? The Ramah disagreed with Maran, and he says if you have read 3 psukim already with him from the Pasul Sefer Torah, let him say Asher natan lanu et Torato Torah emet, and finish it up, right? And give a new aliyah to a new ole in the second Sefer Torah. So says the Mishnah Berura, de'azu choleket al mechaber. Of course, this is disagreeing with the Maran of Shulchan Aruch. Just like we wrote in the preface to this Saif, he should have made it more clear, the Ramah. Say yesh omrim. There are those who disagree, there are those who say differently. He should have said it like that. Many times the Ramah kind of like makes his comments embedded in the words of the Shulchan Aruch, and it seems to the reader that he is commenting on the Shita of Maran of Bet Yosef, completing his words, but in reality he's actually arguing with him. And this is one such case that he says, as if it continues. And if they read with him, but really he's a brand new Shita that disagrees with everything that Maran said, basically. So says the Mishnah Berura, be careful that this is its second Shita over here. Now, if Shar Lafsik, they could read 3 psukim, and you could stop is more than 3 psukim left at the end of the parasha, and so on and so forth. Im haya rak shnei psukim samuch leparasha, then you can't stop. Of course, you have to finish those 2 psukim as well. Finish the parasha before you go further. Umevarech acharei. So the Rama holds they actually could say bracha acharona al asher natan lanu also and a pasuk sefer Torah. Why? The sevira le the kevan shkaru shlosha psukim kodem shenu because you read already 3 psukim before you knew it's a pasuk sefer Torah. So we assume that you had all the rights to think that this is a kosher sefer Torah, and once you had the rights, your read of the Torah is a legitimate read, and once your read of the sefer Torah is a legitimate read, you could even say bracha on it after you found out that it's pasul. Maran, of course, does not agree with that, as we saw. But here is the Rama. וממילא צריך לברך אחריו, ואין צריך שוב לגמור קריאתו בספר הכשר, אבל כשנמצא טעות אחר שקראו רק 2 פסוקים, but if you didn't read yet 3 psukim, you only read 2 psukim and you found out the mistake, then of course you cannot stop there because you only read 2 psukim. The minimum of read is 3 psukim. Then of course the Rama agrees with Maran that you bring out the Sefer Torah kasher, you finish reading in that Sefer Torah, and only then you say Bracha Acharona. Fine. So actually, if you take a look at the Berura Halacha, he explains in the name of many Achronim that the psak of the Shulchan Aruch is more it's more legitimate. יש לנהוג למעשה כפסק השולחן ערוך וכפי מה שהכריע הרמ"ם אם לא במקום שיש מנהג קבוע בעיר כדעת המגן אברהם, unless you have a clear minhag like the Magen Avraham, that Magen Avraham basically paskins like the Mordechai that we explained in the previous shiur. Ve'en lahem leshanot minhagam. If you have a clear minhag like Mordechai, you don't have to change your minhag. But at the same time, noagin shelo la'otzi sefer Torah acheret b'shvil maftir. If you caught the mistake in maftir, you don't bring another sefer Torah out because you already read the entire Torah thinking that it's kasher. So maftir is just a repetition of the last few psukim. For that, you don't bring a new sefer Torah, and therefore it comes out very interesting. After mashlim, you found the ta'ut, right? The mistake. You haven't said kaddish yet. Lo yotzi sefer Torah acheret. You should not bring another sefer Torah out. Shouldn't, because of the maftir. So we b'di'eved rely on the last aliyah of mashlim also for maftir, and therefore you don't read another maftir. You don't give an aliyah to maftir because you can't do that l'chatchila, right? So you just what you do is you say kaddish, and afterwards, you don't say kaddish. You say kaddish after Birkot Haftarah. You say Birkot Haftarah, you read the Haftarah, then you say kaddish, right? That's how it's going to be. Even though that kaddish is said on Kriyat Torah, the Kaf HaChaim says that Haftarah is not considered a hefsek, is not considered a pause in between the Kriyat Torah and the Kaddish. So therefore, you could read Haftarah and then say Kaddish. If you said the Kaddish, then you figured out the mistake. Then you should read for the maftir from this Sefer Torah that's pasul, 3 psukim, but without bracha. Without bracha. It doesn't say bracha, it just goes up there, reads the psukim. Lo yomar Kaddish, you don't say Kaddish, because you already said Kaddish. And that would be the halacha. Now, we still have some details to discuss over here, but those we will, B'ezrat Hashem, leave for the days to come. Chazak u'baruch.